Okay, so in this class I'd like to discuss with you how I use Illumina 3D from Boston in the electrode that's not well placed. It's suboptimal. It's not in the really right position, the hot spot, but it's not too bad. And how Illumina can help us in deciding the best context to simulate. So let's get directly to the tablet. And here is a patient that I follow in my office. And this is the reconstruction. Remember, I'm going to click here in these layers to see the objects that I have in my STN. And here, as you're going to see, for example, here is the STN of this patient, okay, in red, in green. So this is the STN, and as you can see, it's not a bad position. If you remember in the hotspot class, the very good position in the STN is on average here. So in the dorsal lateral posterior part of the STN. So here, if you split the STN in three, here in this third, in the division between this third and this one, we are going to see the hotspot. That's the best region that you can enlist more improvement in Parkinson's. But in this patient, the electrode is here. So if I see this in my clinic, I say, okay, I'm going to stimulate this patient maybe with this contact and this one, and I try to put this VTA toward to this region. And probably the patient will improve a lot, as really happened with this patient. And now, what I think that you have to do in your clinic, you have to see this before you see the patient. So you have to analyze the imaging. You have to do a plan. What contact maybe are you using this patient, or which levels of the stimulation is better, which directional contact is better. This before you see the patient. And once you see the patient, you're going to test the clinical test of the contacts, the most ventral, the ventral one, and then you're going to decide together with the imaging your initial program. So basically the initial program relies on your clinical insight, but also in the imaging. So let's see this imaging, and I'd like to discuss with you which contact, or first, which level would you decide to stimulate this patient if you see them for the first time. So if you ask to me, I would say, okay, well, maybe this contact is good, okay, because it's in the middle of the STN, maybe not too good, but good, okay. This level, I would say that the best level, because we are in the dorsal part of the STN, but also this is a directional level, so I can work with directional to put the current here, and maybe in the future this one. So remember, when you start to program a patient, overall you choose one or two contacts, but over time, in the long term, you need more energy, and then you're going to add new contacts. You are going to call a new friend. Friend, could you help me? So, and then you put a new contact to stimulate this patient. You are putting together new forces. And here, I cut the STN as I teach you in the previous class. So here, I'm going to put the hot spot in the STN, and I'm going to remove the green one. So this in orange is my hot spot. I did this before, so once I get into the program, I'm going to see this scenario. Look at this. Again, maybe this contact can help, so I'm going to test my patient. I think that this one maybe would be the best, and I can say you that I have already seen this patient in this is the best level, but maybe in the future this one. This I won't use because it's not needed, okay? So if you have to choose the contacts here, look at that, the electrodes a little bit rotate. As you can see, the anterior is looking to the lateral part of the STM. So maybe this directional will be good, okay? And maybe if you rotate here, the posterolateral contact here, that's this one, will be good as well. So maybe I will use this patient, this contact, and this one. And in the future, maybe in this level and maybe in the most ventral part. So if I see this patient in my office, I would start to do the monopolar review with the stimulation. So, for example, let's see what the motor improvement using the most ventral, and then I'm going to see in the ventral, and I'm seeing the rigidity, the bradykinesia, the tremor, and then I'm going to work with this level, and then you take notes. So basically you are doing the monopolar review. And once you do that and you think that the ventral level is the best one, you're going to see which directional is best. So you're going to put energy here, you're going to examine your patient, and then you're going to move to another directional contact and so forth. So the idea here is to pass among all the contacts to see your clinical impression, and then you have to note that. So let's imagine that you think that this one, the 2A and the 2B, were the best ones. So you can start to program this patient with this contact, for example, and then you can rotate here. Can you see here the steering? So you can rotate or you can put in other levels. So if I press here in the rotation, I'm going to rotate to the 2B, look at the VTA. And once I do that, the VTA will change. And at this time, I'm seeing my patient, I examine, and I'm passing through the best contacts. And then you are going to decide, and then you're going to start program. Remember, when you start program, you're going to put low energy, on average 0.3 milliamps. And then after 7 days, 0.5 or 6. If the patient has too much dyskinesia, I'm going small steps of 0.2 every week. And if the patient is more tremor dominant without dyskinesia, you can put a step of 0.3. But do not go faster than that, otherwise the patient can have some side effects such as dyskinesia or impulsivity. But another idea, besides your clinical impression, your test, you can call Illumina. What's Illumina? Illumina is like a friend of you that understands about DBS therapy. And this friend is going to give you an advice. Oh, I would choose this contact. This is your friend telling you that he or she would prefer these contacts in this patient. And then you are going to decide what you want to do. The final decision is yours. So let's get back to the program. And now let's ask to the Illumina, which contacts do you think that's better? So here, as you can see, we are in the steering mode. And then I'm going to put here in the configuration settings. And then I'm going to turn on the Illumina 3D, as you can see here, okay? You have to turn on these settings here, and then once you do that, you're going to come here in cathodic, as you can see, cathodic, and I'm going to change to Illumina. Let me put this in here to be better. And then once I click here in Illumina, you're going to choose which target you want to stimulate. And as I did it to you in other class, we are going to choose obviously my hotspot that I have already made. And once I do that, I'm going to calculate here, okay? Remember, this is the default setting. So if you have a maximal fill here and maximal spill here, so if you put this toward the left, you're going to have more spill, which means that you're going to stimulate region that maybe is undesirable, but you have to do because your electrode is suboptimal or it's a bad position. So if your electrode is good in a good position, or as this one, they are inside the hotspot, you can leave here in this 50-50. That's the standard, and then we work. I'm going to show in another class, how we have to put this, in which situation we're going to put this toward the left in order to reach the region, but I have to have a more spill as a balance, okay? I'm going to teach you this in another class. And here, I'm not going to use, in this case, the target avoidance because it's not needed. Overall, I do not use this. Unless you have specific situations such as the patient has, for example, dysarthria, and you are already using Illumina, you are avoiding the spread of the current, but even so the patient have dysarthria, then you can put the avoid incision, the internal capsule, and then the Illumina, they will try even more avoid this region because the patient has dysarthria, but overall you're not going to use these settings, okay? So once you do that, you're going to click here to calculate, and then you're going to put load settings, and then your friend Illumina, he's going to tell you, okay, I would choose in this patient this contact 14%, this contact, remember the anterior in the ventral level and the posterior lateral. So remember that you choose, or me, this and this one. Illumina is really, in our similar opinion. You can ask me, what's 1 or in 1 percentage here? This is about the software, the artificial intelligence. When they do the settings, they put here 1 and 1, but it's not. This is not going to stimulate the tissue surrounded here. It's a kind of, it's not a mistake, but something that the software put here. But you know, you're not going to see any clinical effect if you put 1 or on. So, in my view, this is like this is turned off, and turn off. But this, no, this is important because these anodes here, they are going to avoid the spread of the current to this upper level and to this medial part of the nucleus. So you are going to see the VTA like this, something like here, and like here, toward the nucleus, okay? So you're going to say to your friend, okay, I'm going to accept what you did, Illumina. So I'm going to pause here, and then this is the configuration that Illumina gave to you, okay? And you can stimulate your patient with this configuration, it's okay, okay? And then you can increase the stimulation over time, but also you can do your configuration, your own configuration. So you get the idea of Illumina, you get the idea, okay, but I don't want you to start the stimulation with this level. I don't want to do that because in my monopolar review, this contact's not too good, or this patient has, for example, dyskinesia, and as you know, the ventral part of the STN enlists more dyskinesia than the dorsal part, so I'm going to avoid this region. And then I'm going to turn off this. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to change to custom. Look at that. So when I change to custom, I can do by myself the changes here. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to decrease the percentage here, as you can see. Look at that, 13, 12, and then I can even remove all the stimulation, as you can see here, and turn off this contact. So basically what I did, I got the idea of the Illumina, but I removed this because I don't wish to do that, to stimulate this. So you are in the charge here, okay? And then you're going to start the simulation using this. This is not Illumina anymore. This is your custom configuration that you got some idea from Illumina, but you did it by yourself, okay? So I do this too much in my patients. I get the idea from Illumina, then I shape it. And the other thing, just to finish here, that you can do, I'm going to return to Illumina quickly here. And then imagine that you are stimulating your patient. One thing that you can do in your patient as a monopolar review, for example, imagine that your patient is sitting in front of you, and then you're going to increase the simulation, okay? And then look at this VTA. This is the VTA that Illumina gave to you, okay? And then you are seeing the rigidity and the side effect. And then what you can do manually, you can change the VTA in the horizontal level to see whether this patient can improve even more doing that. For example, in this case, let's try to put the VTA in this direction. Let's rotate the VTA to see what happened with my patient. So what I'm going to do is like this. Look at here, I'm turning, observe the VTA. We are turning to different position, and then when you do that, you remember you are examining your patient, so you can manually change a little bit the Illumina first configuration to another Illumina configuration that's a little bit different, but you saw that's better for your patient. So this is a way to do the monopolar review. And also you can work in the vertical plan. You can click in here in the steering, but now you are going to work with the levels. Look at what will happen with the VTA. I'm going to put in this plan, and for example, if I go down, look at the VTA, and again, you are examining your patient, and this is really amazing. So you can, for example, leave here 1.5, 1.6, that's a good energy, or 2.0, and then you get the Illumina configuration, but then you change a little bit the stimulation using this steering mode for vertical plan and then horizontal plan. This is amazing because it's quick, and then you can really feel if the patient improves. This is a way to do the initial program. The other way that I have already told you is to do manually using only the cathodic stimulation. Don't have to use the Illumina. So that was an example of how you can use Illumina in the electrode that's not really a good place in the STN, because if the electrode is in the right position inside the hotspot, maybe you don't need to use Illumina because it's really easy to simulate. But in this case, where you have to put energy toward the most posterior part of the nucleus, Illumina is helpful, okay? So if you have any question about this, please let me know. And in the next class, I'm going to show you how we do this with a bad position electrode outside the STN. How Illumina can help you with this bad position electrodes, okay? So see you in the next class.